Saturday class at JHP Place, and this is our online class, and I'm just thinking, you know, shortly we should be back, hopefully, fingers crossed, in person. So enjoy those online classes till you can. We will carry on with live stream and taking photos and instructions for people who can't attend in-person classes, but yes, it won't be as full, you know, class as it is now. This week I have for you drawing with a black pen on top of watercolor pencils, all watercolors. So this is example with watercolors underneath, and then I filmed for you example with watercolor pencils. Some work in progress as well. They're already work in progress because they're quite time consuming projects, but in a good way. You can start it, the wet stage, in advance, let it dry, and then take those pieces of paper, colored paper now, with your and a black pen, and do that when you watch telly or you're on a bed. You know, it's something that is quite relaxing as well when you just go over and over with your pen. So have fun, let me know how that worked for you. Very simple in terms of materials. All you need is watercolor pencils or watercolors and black pen, and that's it really. So have fun and let me see what you created. Okay, so I will be working on 3 different pieces just to have different effect, with each having different color. But you can work on 1 piece of paper. So that was just A4 paper, mixed media paper. You can work on a little bit thicker drawing paper, on watercolor paper is ideal, or any mixed media paper will be fantastic for this project. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use, like I said, different color for each. Because I want to experiment with the color, and the project is about starting with watercolor, so they're all watercolor pencils, starting with watercolor pencils on wet background, and I will wet it with this big soft brush, and then just blending lots of color and having very vague shapes produced with the color, shapes that just kind of give you indication where some future shapes will go. And the next stage is to get those shapes with a black pen. So this is something I've done recently with watercolors and then pen work, but here we're using watercolor pencils. Let me just grab it and show you. So if you want to use watercolors and not the watercolor pencils, feel free to experiment. It could be inks as well, and it's a great fun just to have you know, that play area between the shape vaguely indicated by color patches and actual line-based piece of drawing. So I'm working fully from memory and imagination, and there will be more floral, maybe some leaves or just abstractish kind of shapes, but you can work with any theme. Maybe you want to work with something more like faces or human figure or fruits or buildings. It doesn't really matter. You get the concept through just watching video how to play between abstractive shape and then define a line drawing. So I'm starting with wetting my paper, and I will start with the blue one. So I'm just working on one. Maybe a bit more water. It's pretty wet. And this one I'm bringing to my imagination and awareness, different shapes of leaves, maybe some berries or things I can see now towards end of the summer emerging in nature. It really, so you can see this is already dissolving into water, and I'm holding it this way, so I'm not getting really precise line. I'm getting it the more color because I'm holding in more vertical, horizontal way, so flat. And also what I decided to do, I have blue, orange and red. I decided not to go for greens and just try to experiment with colors that wouldn't normally be in nature if I want to draw or work on shapes in nature. I'm adding a bit more color here, and I will give it another wash in a moment with this brush, not going back to water, it's still wet. So I will just wash over it so it will kind of dissolve. try not to have uniform shapes. Thinking about how sometimes things do fold, bend to give it more dynamic shapes. Okay, and I'm gonna give it wash now again. So I get that watercolor pencil even dissolving more, maybe tap it a bit. And I got more water, dissolve it more. And now I want to go and add some areas, very dark areas of the color. So I'm just deciding where about I want to apply more color, because that will stay here. I really like this now. I have this contrast dark and maybe repeat something similar. Oh, you see, this is what happens when you use it this way sometimes. That's all right. You can always grab that bit. It's actually easier. Okay. A bit more water, but not everywhere. And I'll let this dry. And I repeat it in different colors. So I have one in orange, one in red. Maybe I do one in red for some different example and come back to you when I have those two dry, and I'll start drawing on top of that, and then that's where you start getting things more visible. If you feel, coming back to this one, if you feel you want more color, you know, you more color in your final piece of artwork, because this is a stage when we're adding color. Won't be adding color later, be just working with the black pen. You know, add more color, let it dry, let it blend. Okay, I'll do my red one now. And this one I think I will do more more colorful, but in terms of just adding more color. This more maybe imitation of or inspiration from flowers. I feel like this red produced more color than the blue, but that's probably because I covered larger areas. Now I'm just using the tip of the pencil. Okay, I'm gonna dry them and come back to you when this is fully dry, and work on top of that with a black pen. Okay, so they are dry now, and you can see the difference here, which is good. So you can decide how you want to work with your watercolor pencil on this initial layer, because I put so much red in here, and there was much more pigment that it created more color in the background. This one has more white because there were small areas with the watercolor pencil. And you know, this is something you can play around, you get different effects. So I'll show you how I start working on this one. And there are, you know, many ways to go about it. The beauty of it is just being inspired by the shapes you got from watercolor pencil. But you can, when you do your drawing in line, in more like a line drawing, so like I have example here, you know, you have defined shapes. It is more about playing with that initial layer. Do you want to go on top of that and extend your drawing to go beyond where the main body of color is, or do you want to keep it in and have some body of color to go outside? So for example, here with the oranges, it went beyond those small berry shapes. It went into the leaf. The same here with the green. It was a bit different here with the green for the leaf. Some green was left outside. So this is all about, you know, having this really creative approach and figuring things out, how you want to work with it. So for me here, I see two big flowers from the corners, a leaf on a stalk across, and then lots of small shapes I can add. They are going to be inspired by nature, but quite abstractish at the same time. You can work with any pen on top of watercolor pencil. It's easy to work on top of watercolor pencil. You know, I'm not keeping directly in the boundary of you, as you can see. So you see here already I have a patch which is not fully red. And to be honest with you, there's lots of patches and overlapping layers already created by the watercolor that I'm getting inspired by now. So that's the point of having this background. It gives you indication of some interesting overlapping shapes, so you can get your imagination going. And also play, so it's not just by outlining. Play with the some dark areas, cover them fully with your black pen, give it contrast. And maybe have some areas with pattern. Dots are quite organic pattern for anything if you want to work with florals. And this will build up, you know, as you go along. Come back to some of the lines. Don't feel like you've aligned something and that's it. You know, now I'm feeling like, oh, I can get really quite a lot here. Look at the visions of that semi-petal. You know, come back and just build up. If you ever feel stuck, get out to the garden or park, get some shapes, be inspired by them, or just fully work from imagination. What, you know, wherever it takes you. So I'm going to gradually work on this one, and then I will have another one coming from this, and this big, I really like this here. The just reminds me of one big leaf that is spreading. So that will be something I will give much more time. So this is quite a time-consuming project and addictive, but great. I mean, those ones, when they dry, you can take them with you if you're on the sofa or in the bed. Just have a book that you can put that on, so it's got something to lean on, and you can work with a pen. You know, you don't need anything. It could be just a biro pen. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. And sometimes I work from one area and jump to another, come back to the area I was working before. Some people like to work in more systematic way. So with the leaves, remember they're not flat, they can fold. So if you want to indicate your leaf is folding, you have this darker area underneath. Or just watch carefully, you know, take some time for observation of the actual leaf and see how those shapes are formed. Okay, so this is how we go about this project. You know, I could be filming that now for a very long time. So I finish this off, take the final photo, but also you can see example here that is more completed. Here I added markers, so the dark areas, if you have any markers like Sharpies or just fine liners, which are quite have the quite wide tip, or brush tip. So this is called wide, this one. You can use that as well. I just remember it will give you that kind of, you know, full coverage. So let's say if I want to cover this. So save it for maybe the last part when you know which parts you're happy to fully cover. Again, it will bring your drawing out because you're playing with black contrast against the color. Okay, so have fun, and I'm looking forward to see what you create, and I'll take photo of this one being finished and this one may be in progress, plus that example. Okay, take care. Bye bye.